My name is Ganesh from HDFC Securities, and we are back with another interesting discussion on exchange traded funds. ETFs have been gaining a lot of traction in the last couple of years, and it is fast evolving not only as an entry point for first time investors, but also as a new age investing avenue for all types of investors. And to tell us more about this, we have with us Mr. Samir Desai, who's the national lead for Nippon India Mutual Fund. Okay, so without taking any more time, Samir bhai, it's over to you now.
Yeah, thanks, Ganesh, and good afternoon, everyone. As Ganesh mentioned, ETF is a very potent investment vehicle, and it is not only potent, it is low cost, and it can be used across asset classes to do sensible portfolio construction. So why ETFs make a lot of sense, not only in these times, but are genuinely perennial long-term portfolios, is what we'll see in this current session. So as I go to the first slide, uh, it shows us the ETF advantages. So Ganesh, can we move on to the first slide, please? Uh,
Yeah.
it shows us the ETF advantages, which is as you can see from this slide, the best of both the worlds. So what it means is that ETF is a diversified portfolio because it is essentially a mutual fund scheme, and it combines the diversification benefits with the real-time trading characteristics of stocks. So you have diversification plus real-time pricing combined in one product, and that is what makes ETFs very potent. Now, when I say that the ETF is essentially a mutual fund scheme, the underlying portfolio is an index. So that is what makes ETF what we call passive investments. What do I mean by passive investments? Passive investments means that you simply buy a market index, whether it's an equity index, a sector index, a fixed income index, and so on and so forth. So when you buy an index, it reduces many of the risks associated with the traditional method of investing, which is known as active investing. Active investing, we are all familiar with active investing because we actively select stocks, we actively select the best fixed income securities, or we give our monies to fund managers who we think will select good stocks or fixed income securities and give us a return higher than the index. Now, this is easier said than done because all fund managers or all portfolio managers or all stock pickers cannot consistently beat the market index, and that is what makes the index investing a very potent method of investing. So the underlying portfolio of a ETF is an index. An index reduces the two major risks of investing, what we call the non-systematic risks. What are the non-systematic risks? It is the stock specific risk and the fund manager risk. So when you buy individual stocks, the stock or the company has its own peculiar risks. Okay, and this is brought down when you buy an index. Also, because you're buying an index, there is no fund manager doing stock selection. So even the fund manager risk is brought down, and that is what makes ETF index investing a very potent method of investing. So you buy an ETF through your broking account, let's say your HDFC Securities broking account, and the delivery comes in the demat account. The big difference is that instead of buying an individual stock, you are buying a diversified index like the Nifty, the next Nifty Next 50, the bank index, so on and so forth. So if we move on to the next slide, it shows the popularity of ETFs, and this is a snapshot of the New York Stock Exchange. Now, investors, we would normally believe that on a stock exchange, the highest trading volumes will be of popular companies. So this is the snapshot of the NYSE, and this is pretty much what happens on a daily basis. So on this particular day, in October 2019, for example, the highest traded individual company was Apple. As against that, if you see the volume of the S&P 500 ETF, the S&P 500 ETF is the equivalent of our Nifty 50. It's a large cap index. So this ETF had a volume almost 2.5 times that of Apple. Now this happens, as I said, very regularly, and all the shaded rows that you can see on this slide are all ETFs, which tells us that the ETF share is increasing in the New York Stock Exchange. So investors are no longer buying individual companies, they are buying entire indexes via low cost ETFs. That is the trend there, and this is increasingly the trend in India also. So if we go on to the next slide, it shows the graphical depiction of the global growth of ETFs. So the first S&P 500 ETF, which we saw in the previous slide, that was the first ever ETF scheme to be launched, and that happened in 1993. Since that initial launch, no other product has grown so fast in financial services history as have ETFs. So today the global AUM of ETFs is in excess of $5 trillion, which is more than the GDP of many countries. In the next slide, we will see the Indian growth of ETFs. So ETFs have grown very rapidly in India also. The first ever ETF to be launched in India was a Nifty ETF known as Nifty Bees, which was launched in December 2001. Now, ever since that initial launch, ETFs have grown very rapidly in India, especially over the last 4-5 years. And today you have almost 1,75,000 crores of ETF AUMs in India. And today, Indian investors have a choice of selecting large cap ETFs, mid cap ETFs, sector ETFs, fixed income ETFs, commodity ETFs like gold. So across asset classes, investors can invest in low cost ETFs. So this is the Indian growth of ETFs. If we see 1,75,000 crores as a percentage of the equity mutual fund AUM in India, it is almost 18 to 20%. So this is how rapidly the ETFs have grown. If we move on to the next slide, it shows the the huge role the government of India has played in ETF growth. So the government of India has acted as a big catalyst. For example, it decided to disinvest via the ETF route way back in 2014. As a result of that decision of the GOI, the CPSE ETF NFO was launched, and ever since that initial launch, there have been many successful mobilizations for the disinvestment business of the government of India. Also in 2015, provident funds were mandated to invest their incremental inflows up to a maximum of 15% into equities. As a result of that announcement by the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Labor, the EPFO, one of the largest pools of money in India, decided to adopt the ETF route for equity investments. As a result of the EPFO's decision, today the largest mutual fund scheme in India is a Nifty 50 ETF. And this is very much what happens globally also. Globally also, the largest mutual fund schemes are either ETFs or index funds. In short, they are passive funds. Also, there was a major regulatory change announced by SEBI in 2018 as far as benchmarking was concerned, or as far as alpha generation was concerned. So what SEBI did in 2018 was it did scheme rationalization. Now, what does that mean? So, for example, if you had a large cap scheme prior to the SEBI announcement, the large cap mutual fund manager would invest in mid caps, small caps, benchmark to Nifty Sensex, and show alpha. After the SEBI announcement, after the scheme rationalization announcement, today a large cap fund the large cap mutual fund manager has to select at least 80% of his portfolio from the Nifty 50 and the Nifty Next 50 index stocks. So 80% of the portfolio has to be strictly large caps as per SEBI definition. Even today, the manager has a leeway to invest up to 20% from mid caps and small caps, but this practice has reduced to what it was earlier. Also, in 2018, SEBI said that fund managers have to benchmark against total returns indexes, which include the dividends. So since these announcements, the alpha has progressively come down or diminished in India. And today, most of the alpha funds, at least in the large cap space, are underperforming the index ETFs. And this is what most of the data is showing us. So if I go to the next slide, this slide is very important from the ETF potency, which I said right in the beginning. So what we have done here is we have shown the big falls in the market like it has happened currently over the last decade. So we have included the 2008 financial crisis when the bellwether indexes, that is the large cap indexes fell more than 30%. So we have taken the steep fall on a particular day and seen what the index, what kind of return the index gave over the next 1, 3, and 5 years. So if you see this slide, on 20th November 2008, the Nifty and the Sensex fell more than 30%. Now from that day, if you go to the first column, the 1 year column, and you go to the bottom two data points, the Nifty 50 gave a return of almost 100% absolute from 20th November 2008, and Nifty Next 50 index gave a return of almost 162%. Over the next 3 and 5 years, both the Nifty and the Nifty Next 50 gave a return in excess of 20% CAGR. So this is the kind of recovery or the returns the index gives, both the indexes gave after a steep fall. As against that, if you see the fund managers at the top of the, all the funds at the top, most of them ended up underperforming the Nifty and the Nifty Next 50 index. So what this tells us is that whenever there is a steep fall in the market, the best thing to do is eliminate the guesswork of which stocks to buy. We spend a lot of time guessing. Now the market has fallen so much, so what are the best companies to invest in, what are the best fund managers to look at? Instead of doing that guesswork and wasting time, simply buy the indexes via an index ETF. That is the easiest thing to do, and that is what the new age investing is all about, which is what American investors are doing, as I showed you in the initial slide. That American investors are no longer wasting time in trying to find the next Amazon. So recently, taking the example of Amazon, Amazon since inception, since the IPO in 1997 till now, has given a return of 1,20,000%. Now, this is a very good story for equities, but unfortunately, the article that I was reading mentioned that how many investors have captured this return? Hardly anybody, because this is a hindsight information. Okay, so instead of wasting time trying to find the next Amazon, the next Google, and its equivalents in India, the best thing is to buy the Nifty 50 ETF or the Nifty Next 50 ETF and simply enjoy the market rate of returns, which have been also very good enough. So if I take the example of the two oldest ETFs in India, the Nifty Bees, which was launched in December 2001, since then it has given a return of almost 14% CAGR till now. That is, after the steep fall, the return is still in higher double digits. Now, over this time period, think of the number of alpha funds that have come and gone. Think of the number of fund managers that have outperformed, underperformed. Think of the amount of blue chip stocks that have come and gone. And this is the kind of return the index has given. So if we consider the Nifty Next 50 index, okay, there is an ETF available for that also. Now that ETF was launched in February 2003, and since then it has given a return of almost 16 to 17% CAGR. So this is the kind of returns the indexes can give. So it is very important that whenever the market falls, to straight away start investing in the indexes, eliminate the risk of individual stocks, individual fund managers. And here I would like to quote Jack Bogle, the founder CEO of Vanguard, which is the largest index provider in the world, and which launched the first ever index mutual fund scheme way back in 1976. So Bogle had a very famous, piece of advice that he used to give investors. He used to say, don't hunt for needles, buy the entire haystack. What he meant was, he referred to needles as stocks. Don't look for needles, individual stocks. Instead of that, buy the entire index haystack. Okay, buy the entire ETF. That was his advice. And that is exactly what one needs to practice. So if we go on to the next slide, it shows the versatility of ETF usage and the reason why it makes it so popular. So ETFs can be used by short-term investors for trading. It can be used by long-term investors for long-term investments. It can be used for what we call market access or cash equitization. What it means is, supposing the market has fallen steeply, whatever the reason, straight away you can buy the index ETF and start deploying your money or start participating in the markets. Too much of time is lost in analyzing which are the best companies to buy, which are the best sectors to look at, and that is, the time wasted in that. What happens is the market starts rising and we miss the bus. So this is what ETFs can help us do: deploy our money immediately. So all kinds of investors have been using ETFs, right from institutional investors, provident funds, the government of India through its disinvestment, HNIs, retail, insurance companies. Everybody understands the versatility of ETFs, the risks that it reduces, and its low cost. Okay, that is also very, very important. So typically a Nifty ETF has an annualized expense ratio of 5 basis points. As against that, a large cap alpha fund may have an expense ratio 10 to 20 times higher, and the fund manager can still end up underperforming the ETF. So this needs to be eliminated, and one needs to start investing in the indexes. So if we go on to the next slide, it tells us the methodology of how one can do the asset allocation. Now asset allocation is a very important driver of portfolio returns. 95% or more returns are because of asset allocation, and many studies over the last 20 years have proved this. So it depends upon where you put your money: equities, fixed income, what kind of asset allocation you do. And indexes are best positioned to do asset allocation very efficiently because indexes represent asset classes. So for example, Nifty represents the large cap segment of the Indian market. An individual large cap company or a large cap alpha fund will not represent the large cap segment of the market. Only the index can do that. Okay, so asset allocation can be best practiced using indexes. So the core of your asset allocation should be in a passive ETF, because you will at least end up getting the market rate of return, whatever it is going forward. Going forward, you will not know which stocks will beat the index and which stocks will underperform the index. Similarly, you will never know which fund managers are going to beat the index and which fund managers are going to underperform the index. So if I use an example from sports, if the outperforming stocks and fund managers in a particular time period are gold medalists, the underperforming stocks and underperforming fund managers in a particular time period are bronze medalists, then index is silver medal by default. So when you buy an index ETF, you will always be in the silver medal position. And as Indian data tells us, most of the alpha funds are unfortunately in the bronze medal position. There are very few gold medalists, and those gold medalists will also keep changing places. You will not find a single fund manager who is consistently outperforming the index. So that's the problem. So core component of any portfolio, long-term portfolio, should be in an index ETF like the Nifty 50 or the Next 50. So if we go on to the next two slides, I'll quickly tell you the Nippon India advantage in the ETF business. So can we move on to the next slide? So Nippon India has the largest or the longest experience in the ETF business of almost 20 years. We have the largest ETF bouquet in India. We have the largest share of investor folios, almost 40% of the total industry. And we have the most liquid ETFs. So our ETFs have the highest volume on the stock exchange. So the daily average traded volume as of March 31st, 2020, that share was almost 78%. Okay, so all the other ETFs are in the balance 20%. Okay, so this is the very important for an ETF because you're buying it on the stock exchange. So if we go on to the next slide, it gives us the Nippon India bouquet, which, as I said, is the largest in the industry. So we have ETFs across fixed income, equities, and commodity. In equities, we have the Nifty ETF, the Nifty Next 50 ETF, which is known as Junior Bs, Nifty Midcap 150 ETF. You can combine this with gold ETFs, fixed income ETFs, practice asset allocation, and bring down the overall portfolio risk. So this is the large bouquet. Now the next two slides are very interesting. This is what you can practice even at HDFC Securities for ETFs. Now HDFC Securities has wonderful ETF baskets, okay, which are known as small cases. So what is a small case? So for example, HDFC Securities offers an all-weather small case. What is an all-weather small case? An all-weather small case has 4 underlying ETFs covering 3 asset classes. So you have Nifty 50 ETF, Nifty Next 50 ETF, Gold ETF, and fixed income ETF. Okay, so 3 asset classes can be bought by an investor in a single click on the HDFC Securities website. Okay, this is the asset allocation in action, which I was mentioning. As I said, asset allocation is very important. This small case is putting asset allocation into practice. Like this, HDFC Securities offers a couple of ETF small cases. For example, there is a top 100, small case, which is a combination of the Nifty 50 ETF and the Nifty Next 50 ETF. Now, when you buy these two ETFs, what is the advantage? The underlying 100 stocks of both these indexes, Nifty and Nifty Next 50, cover almost 75% of your market by value. When I say market by value means they capture almost 75% of your market capitalization. So if you want to do a most basic equity allocation, the only thing that you need to do is buy this small case. Between these 100 companies, top 100 companies of India, 75% of your equities as an asset class is covered. So this is the kind of asset allocation models that you can implement through HDFC Securities small cases. This makes life very easy. You don't have to worry which stocks to buy, which asset classes to choose. This is like eating a Indian thali where you have roti, sabzi, rice, and dal, everything in one portfolio available at a single click. So I think this is what are the advantages of ETFs. Let me quickly summarize before we move to the Q&A. So ETFs are very low cost. ETFs are essentially indexes. So the risks of stock selection and manager selection go away. ETFs can be bought through small cases where you can practice asset allocation in a single portfolio. And ETFs are very simple to execute because you buy and sell them like stocks through your broking account, and the delivery comes exactly like stocks in the demat account, and you can buy them in very small denominations. So for example, a Nifty 50 ETF today you can buy for almost rupees 100. Okay, so this is the kind of flexibility that ETFs have to offer. So with this I end my session, and we can now go to the question and answers. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Samir Bhai. That was a really wonderful session with a very, very conceptual understanding given by you on the benefits of ETF and why ETFs at this current point in time. Okay, so we do have some questions which I will bounce it off to you. So yeah, so the first question comes from Ms. Varsha. Okay, ETFs are traded as stocks versus index mutual funds. So which is better, index funds or mutual fund, index ETFs?
So
or does it make no difference?
Yeah, so let me first start with the common factor. So both the index fund and the index ETF are what we call passive investments. So both have the underlying portfolios as indexes. Now let's come to the differences. The ETF can be bought real time. So supposing the market is down at 10:30 in the morning by, let's say, 2000 points, like it happened on a couple of occasions recently, you can buy the ETF at real time prices or at real-time indicative NAV. If the market recovers through the day, in the index fund, you will get end of the day NAV. Okay, so supposing the market were to recover, let's say 1500 points through the day, then the index fund, since it is priced at end of the day, you will get the end of the day NAV. So the ETF can be bought at real-time prices. The third major or the second major difference between an ETF and an index fund is its structural difference, where the ETF is structurally much superior to an index fund. Now, the index fund, like any other open-ended fund, is a common pool account. In a common pool account, all investors share their costs. So supposing you are a genuinely long-term investor doing a SIP into an index fund, and let's say I am a large HNI who is frequently subscribing and redeeming the index fund units, then the underlying cost of buying and selling the basket, which the asset management company will have to do, is shared in the common index fund pool by all investors. This does not happen in the ETF. in an ETF, supposing you are a genuinely long-term investor, आपने ETF यूनिट्स खरीद के डीमैट अकाउंट में रख दिए हैं 10 साल के लिए. So you are not now paying any more brokerage. You are not paying any cost. I am a large trader in the same ETF. Okay, I bear my trading costs. I bear my STT etc. in the ETF. You don't have to share that. Okay, which happens in an index fund. So structurally, this is the superiority of the ETF over the common pool account in the sense that there is no sharing of costs in the common pool. So if I have to, summarize it, in a common pool structure, which is an index fund, genuinely long-term investors are penalized for the bad behavior of short-term investors. This does not happen in an ETF.
Great, thank you so much. So how does Bank Nifty compare with Nifty 50 from Sai Srinivas?
So Bank Nifty is obviously yeah, sorry, you were saying something, Ganesh?
No, that's it.
Yeah, so Bank Nifty is, as the name suggests, you are, when you buy a Bank Nifty, you are buying the sector. So you are taking a bet on the particular sector. Now the Nifty 50 is a broadly diversified index. So if one looks at the principle of diversification, diversification is the closest thing to something like a free lunch in investments. There is no free lunch in investments, but if something comes very close, it is diversification, and it works on the principle of don't put all your eggs in one basket. So more diversified and portfolio, the better it is. So unless one has a view on a particular sector, it is always better to go for the broad market ETFs like the Nifty 50 or the Next 50. To buy any sector ETF, you have to have a view on that sector with full understanding that your view can go wrong, because the sector may end up underperforming the broad market index.
Okay, so the next question is on the liquidity part. So about the volumes. So how good are they? Is it like stocks, or are there challenges? How does it happen? From Prabha.
Yeah. So as we saw in the presentation, our ETFs have a very, very high daily average volume. So to give you an actual concrete example, and this is, I'm quoting the NSE published data. So for example, in Nifty Bees, which is our Nifty 50 ETF, according to NSE, the daily average volume over the last 1 year, 1 year ended April 30th, 2020, was 14.5 crores. As against that, the next highest Nifty 50 ETF had a volume which was almost 1/5 of ours. Why do our ETFs have very high volumes, and why this is very important? Because unless the ETF is liquid, the impact cost will be very high of buying and selling the ETF. So you have to select ETFs which has high volumes, and our ETFs have high volumes because we have the largest share of folios in the industry, close to 40%, as I showed you in that slide. So we have a large investor base. So we have a lot of natural volume happening on the stock exchange, or natural buying and selling between the Nippon ETF investors. So this is an example of the Nifty 50 ETF volume that I gave you. Likewise is the case for our Nifty Next 50 ETF, which is known as the Junior Bees. Its volume is much higher compared to its peers in the industry, and so on and so forth for other ETFs like bank ETF, etc., etc.
Great, thanks. Okay, so the next question is, okay, that's one of the favorite questions of investors from Parimal. At today's position, what should one look at, lump sum or a staggered form of investment?
See, I think staggered form of investment, what we call an ETF SIP, which facility is offered by HDFC Securities in the form of DIY investing, which is a very wonderful facility. See, SIP is another way of diversifying risk across time. Okay, we generally diversify risks across securities. So we buy a diversified portfolio, so that is spreading your risk across securities. We diversify across risks across asset classes, so that is spreading your risk across equities, fixed income, commodities. The third way of diversifying risk is investing over a period of time, which is known as time diversification risk. Okay, so that is exactly what the SIP does. Now, the next question may be, logical question may be, so supposing I do an SIP and I do a lump sum, what will give me a higher return? Now that is very difficult to say, because supposing a lump sum investor, let's say, was lucky enough to catch the lowest point in the market. Okay, and I, for the last 30 years, have not been so lucky. So I'm sharing my example, but let's assume somebody has been very, very lucky that he really was able to catch the market bottom, and he saw the return over the next 1, 3, and 5 years, like I showed you in one of the slides. Then his return may be higher than the SIP. But to catch the bottoms of the market is very, very difficult. So if you want to ride the volatility of the market, spread your investments over the volatility of the market, then I think the SIP investing is a better method to go. So you are diversifying across time. And SIPs, I call them as savings EMI. See, we all of us have expenditure EMIs, home EMIs, car EMIs, and so on and so forth. Savings EMI is an SIP. So I am a strong believer of a savings EMI like the SIP.
Great. That was wonderfully explained. Okay, we'll take the last two questions due to paucity of time now. So, what is the difference between gold ETF and gold mutual fund, from Yogesh?
So gold ETF, again, the same difference, which is there between a Nifty ETF and a Nifty index fund. So the gold ETF, like I said in my earlier answer, you can buy, because it's in the ETF format, you can buy it real time. Okay, so you can buy it during the market trading hours. If the price is down real time at, let's say, 10:30 in the morning, to take the same example again, the gold price has fallen for whatever reason, you can buy it real time. Okay, the gold fund will give you the end of the day NAV. Okay, in the ETF, again, whether it's a gold or a Nifty, the SIP has to be done with the broker, so HDFC Securities. In the open-ended fund, that is the gold fund or the Nifty index fund, the SIP can be done directly with the AMC. Okay, so this is the difference. And again, the structural difference that I mentioned earlier between an ETF and an index fund, where the common pool account disadvantages that I mentioned applies also to the gold fund versus the gold ETF. So the gold ETF is a much superior structure compared to the common pool structure of the gold fund.
Okay, great. So the next question is, could you throw some light on Liquid Bees, Upendra Rao?
So Liquid Bees is a money market ETF. The underlying portfolio is overnight paper, so it has in fact just 1 or 2 days maturity, and that is why it can be considered as risk free. We all know that higher the duration or maturity of a portfolio, greater is the risk with respect to interest rate changes. So this is a portfolio where the paper is overnight paper, and this is a very popular product that was invented for traders. So what happens is, supposing you are trading in stocks. Now let's say today you have sold 1 lakh rupees worth of stocks, and you don't know where to deploy the money. You want to think for a few days. Okay, मुझे अभी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि कहाँ पैसा लगाऊं. So what you can do is, you can simultaneously, while you sell your stocks worth 1 lakh rupees, you can buy 1 lakh rupees worth of Liquid Bees. Okay, so since it is an exchange settled money market fund, in the contract note you will see a net settlement at the end of the day. Okay, so this is the only exchange settled liquid fund that is available. So it is very good for traders. So you sell stocks, you buy a liquid ETF. Now after 5 days you want to buy stocks again. Now you've figured out which stocks to buy. You sell the liquid ETF on the broking platform and simultaneously buy new stocks that you have thought of. So it is a very good tool for temporary parking of money between trades. Okay, so you also earn some interest, and the money remains in the system.
Great. Okay, so this one is very interesting. What is your view on which one is better, value investing or ETFs? Great, very interesting question, because I believe you have a combination of both.
Okay, so value. Okay, so what is, we have a Nifty value index, which is known as the NV20. Now, a lot of people believe that value companies which have a high book to market ratio, okay, those companies are beaten down companies, and hence those companies, tend to give you a higher expected return than the broad indexes. Now, this is a belief, as I said, of many people. Now, this need not always necessarily hold true, because in various market cycles, value does not always outperform, the other styles of investing. So value, like any sector, is again carving out a thin portion of the market from the broad index. Okay, so from the Nifty 50 companies, if you apply certain parameters like return on capital employed, book to market ratio, etc., etc., okay, then you get some 20 value stocks, which it is believed, as I said, by a certain class of people, which tend to give you higher return. So if you are of the same belief, then you can buy the value companies. But as I said, both Indian and the US data tells you that it is not always the case. Over long periods of time, see, the broad market, always sectors and small indexes will always outperform and underperform the broad market. But I would recommend, from experience, it is always better to be with the broad market. Okay, and I am again repeating, HDFC Securities has got wonderful small cases, which are the broad market small cases. Please make use of those small cases.
Great. On the pharma piece, just a simple question: is there a pharma ETF with Nippon?
No,
Yes,
there is no pharma ETF in the industry currently.
Okay, great. Sure. So we move to the next question. Yeah. So, okay, this says, when we talk about passive or active, we do see that active gives an advantage when stocks are overvalued in the index. Okay. AMCs have the expertise to provide such valuations and analysis. Switching to passive, what happens to active trading?
So I think the data, Indian data, so let me quote the large cap data of India, and this is I am quoting the SPIVA data, Standard and Poor Index versus Active. Now, SPIVA is the standard measurement of active and index strategies globally. And this is also done for India since the last 10 years. Now, so this is the independent data. So I am not using any of our data currently. I am quoting an independent data. Now, the latest PIVA data available for India tells us that for the 5-year time period or the 3-year time period ended, for example, December, large cap active funds underperform the large cap indexes. Okay, this is seen over many SPIVA time periods. Okay, SPIVA data is released every 6 months. So if we even see some of the older SPIVA data in India, okay, data is overwhelmingly in favor of passive or against active. So, if your belief is that active managers are adding value, then data is certainly showing exactly the reverse. See, why? I'll tell you, your belief is very right that active managers should add value. What is the problem? See, there are too many active managers fighting for alpha. Okay, too many people are competing with each other trying to generate alpha. Now, when there is a lot of competition in any activity, obviously everybody cannot win in a particular time period. So if you take a particular time period, some managers will be able to generate alpha. As a consequence, the others will underperform the market to that extent. If somebody gets excess return from the market, others have to underperform. Okay, this is a mathematical equation of the market, which was depicted by Professor William Sharpe of the Sharpe ratio. Okay, so he came up with this equation in 1990. So everybody cannot generate alpha or beat the market at the same time. It is mathematically impossible, and it is very difficult to predict which managers will generate alpha in the future. That is very difficult to predict. So if you look at the Indian data, it is certainly not telling us that active managers are doing well. In fact, majority of them are underperforming the indexes.
Great. So I believe we'll have to come to the end of the session now. This was the last question. So thank you so much, dear investors, for taking the time out and being in this session. Should you have any more further queries, please get in touch with your relationship manager and we will have it addressed by Samir Bhai on priority. And thank you so much, Samir Bhai, for a wonderful session again. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wish to see you again.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and thanks for the opportunity, Ganesh. Thank you so much.
Thanks.